Hello, my beautiful and lovely children of the internet. My name is Mia. Welcome to Mia is Anonymous, the podcast where we talk about girlhood, womanhood, feminism. This is a safe space for women, but if you're not a woman, stick around, learn. But if you don't want to stick around, that is okay too. I'll miss you, and goodbye. Today we're going to talk about a book that I just finished reading about and how much it talks about the ugliness that women need to hide constantly. I feel like this can apply to men too. So please, I am going to talk from a woman's perspective. I am going to use woman. But if this applies to you, please stick around. See how it can relate to you. And maybe you can use this relatability that you find in this podcast to empathize. I feel like empathy is needed. Just about life in general, just more empathy. But that's a different story. Today we're going to talk about the book Play Nice by the lovely Rachel Harrison. This is the second book that I've read from her, the first one being Black Sheep. And I love her books so much. I'm going to read the rest of them. I'm going to read So Thirsty. I'm going to read Cackle. I'm going to read Such Sharp Teeth. I love horror. I'm a big horror fan. And I also obviously like feminist twists to it, like a little feminist spin to it. And I absolutely loved Play Nice because it just read the book. But basically it's just about how people, I guess I can use the word people constantly hide the ugliest parts of themselves, and how it is very hard for women because women are kind of policed and controlled when it comes to how they express their emotions. You hear it all the time. If you cry too much, if you're too sensitive, oh my God, why are you being such a woman right now? You're too sensitive. You need to man up. You need to toughen up. Oh my God, women are way too complicated. We have to tiptoe around their feelings all the time. It's just a person crying. Or when a woman is angry, oh, don't get me started on an angry woman and how much that is hated in society. God forbid a woman is angry. And I think about it all the time because there have been several boys and men in my life that are full of rage, and they'll break things, punch things, throw things, and nobody will bat an eye. They'll be yep, that's just a regular boy testosterone man thing. And then a woman does it and it's oh my God, how dare you? But it's kind of this idea that obviously I feel it is a man and a woman thing. I feel it's a collective thing that people don't like to show the ugliest parts of themselves. I do feel that is a collective thing regardless of your gender or your gender identity. However, I do believe that when it comes to showing ugliness and letting that ugliness slip out, people are kinder and more sympathetic and empathetic towards men than they are towards women. Women is how dare you? Women is how, be better, do better. Whereas the man is oh my God, he's having such a hard time. Let's console him. That's just my perspective. The things that I have seen personally, in my immediate circle and in my immediate life, and then things that I see online, it is if a man steps out of line, there is more forgiveness to be had for him than when a woman steps out of line. And it's just both are human, both make mistakes. I'm not here to condone a lot of things that happen, but I do feel the scrutiny is definitely a lot heavier when it comes to women. And that's kind of what the book touches on, is allowing yourself to be ugly, allowing yourself to be more human, accepting not just the beautiful and pleasant parts of yourself, but the ones that may be a little bit harder to digest for people or a little bit more unpleasant. Accept the whole range of who you are. And you need to acknowledge that you don't just have dark parts and you just don't have light parts. And it does you no good to just fully step into one or the other. What will make you feel whole, what will make you feel like a real whole person, is if you accept both and you let both flow in and out. Let both be when it needs to be. And so I'm not going to give you a lot of spoilers about this book because I do really want you to read it. I love it. It's Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. But I will give you like a little synopsis. So there's this woman named Cleo. She's about like 25 years old, and she just lost her mother. The mother suffered a heart attack. But it's a little bit complicated because the mother was an alcoholic. She abused alcohol, and she was a bit verbally, mentally, emotionally, and sometimes physically abusive towards not just Cleo, but her sisters, Daphne and Lita. But you kind of like you see Alexandra, which is the mother's name. She's a very complex character. You're not condoning what she does, but you understand how who she became, like the steps that made her who she was. And it's just it's just a lot of things. So anyways, the mother dies, right? She believed that the house that she lived in was haunted, and now Cleo and the sisters are inheriting that house, and Cleo is kind of like the only one that's like openly grieving and openly questioning things about what happened in the past with her mom, whereas like the sisters, and not only the sister but the father and her stepmother, are kind of like shaming her for even caring about like her mother's past, her mother's story, her mother's beliefs. They're kind of shaming her for even grieving the mother because of how complicated and messed up she was. And you just feel like this like push and pull of like Cleo wants to openly express her grief and her concerns and her curiosities, but she can't. She's always being dictated and policed, so much so that they think that she's going mentally insane like the mother, and she's not allowed to express any type of sadness or anger because it's automatically pushed down into thinking that she's going crazy like Alexandra. And so I want to share a quote from Cleo that I felt was like so amazing. So the first quote that I'm going to share is from page 286, is where she says, "You want to control my feelings, my behavior, my grief." And then the other quote that I'm going to share from Cleo is from 293. It's paraphrased. Is, "No, I'm not okay, and I'm not allowed to not be okay. I have to be pretty and fun and together and nice to look at." Yada, yada, yada. So it goes back to this idea that Cleo feels like she can't express the ugly parts of herself. She can't be in the ugly parts of herself and let it settle for a little bit, even though she needs it. She needs the ugly parts of herself to show right now because she's in the process of grieving her mother. She's in the process of unraveling and uncovering family secrets. She's learning more about her family history. And that comes with a lot of emotions, especially if things were hidden from you, especially if things that you thought were true were not necessarily truthful at all. That is a lot to take in, and the sisters expect her just to be indifferent towards it, to not care, to hold the feelings in and just to let it be. But she refuses, and because she refuses to be anything but nice and pleasant and pretty, she is getting a lot of scrutiny from her family. They're telling her that she's splitting the family apart, she's ruining everything, why can't she just let it go, she's being difficult, she's being disagreeable. And you just see this poor girl just trying to grieve her mother that she never got to be with growing up because Alexandra lost custody when she was a kid. She never got to know her mother growing up. Then her mother passes away, and that has to hit hard. That has to be a very difficult thing, to lose your mother and not fully know what to grieve, how to grieve, who was your mother, and the people in your life that are closest to you are constantly telling you and shaming you about wanting those certain things. That has to be very difficult. And she does have this breakdown in the end, and it sets her free, because I think that's another thing, is that ugliness sets you free. There are truths out in this world that are ugly. Not every truth is beautiful. Not everything about life is beautiful. And you can try to hide away the ugly parts all you can, but truth is truth, and truth will always come out in the end. Truth is just, you can't ignore truth. You can't run truth. You can't fool truth. You can't manipulate it. It will come out in the end, and it is the only key to freedom. Even the ugliest truths about yourself and your life is your key to freedom and is your key to being who you are. And now I want to switch the tone. I feel like I covered everything about Cleo. I want to switch the tone to Alexandra because she was a very complex character. If you want a complex female character, Alexandra is your woman. And so we're going to talk about this quote that she says. I was already under the thumb of my ex-husband, whose constant criticism put me in anxiety and paranoia. That is page 201. And that is her, because she's dealing with this idea. When she was alive, she was very adamant that her house was haunted. But on top of that, she was dealing with alcoholism, and she wasn't very nice to her daughters. But she was on constant pressure because her ex-husband, the girl's father, never appreciated her or never accepted her for who she was. He was always constantly criticizing her, picking fights with her, telling her that she wasn't doing anything good enough or she was not being enough, and she was under pressure. And that pressure, I think, also manifested in her being more negative and being a little bit more unpleasant to be around. And this goes to this idea that I feel like women are taught to internalize everything. We are taught to be good with everything and do good. And there is no room for error. There is no room for walking off that line, because when you do that, you're disappointing not only yourself but everybody. And I feel like there is that pressure of just always being good, always managing how you express anger, always managing how you express sadness or happiness or pleasure. You can't be too much, nor can you be too little. And I do feel for Alexandra in that way. I do not condone everything she did, but it was that constant, she could not walk a straight line. She could not walk a straight line, and instead of being kind and empathetic and sympathetic towards Alexandra, her ex-husband stripped her away from everything, stripped her away from her dignity, her sanity, took her away from her daughters, and there was no kindness that was felt for the mother of his children. I have a lot of nasty grievances with that father. But I'll save it for another day. And it was obvious that she needed help. And instead of being hey, this is the mother of my kids, and, they deserve to have their mother in their life, let me try to help her, he used that to his advantage to get full custody. He kind of always, pushed her, until she couldn't walk a straight line anymore, until, she couldn't even find where the straight line was. And I'm not here saying that it's all his fault. She needed to take accountability, but people need support. People need support, and she wasn't getting that. And he, spoiler alert, he did cheat on her. And he kind of blamed her for his infidelity. He also kept his infidelity a secret and called her a liar every time she did say that he cheated. And he kind of used her flaws against her. He used her shortcomings against her, because she was already this I don't want to say unstable, that's not the right word, but she wasn't a balanced individual, and he used that against her. That made her even more unbalanced and more unstable. And you just feel bad. You just do feel bad because she never got support. And it's this fine line, because, people can't be fully responsible for how you act or how you feel. But there's also this other line about, you don't use people's shortcomings against them. And if you can support, and if you have the room and the space and the time to support, that's always the kinder thing to do than to leave people for the dust, especially family, because whether ex-wife or not, whether you liked being married to her or not, she's your family, she's the mother of your kids. So it's just this was a beautiful book. It really, really shows the ugly parts of these women, and but you don't hate them. It's one of those things where you just realize that they're just human. They're just human, and humans come with ugly parts. Humans come with dark parts. Not everything is pretty and digestible and understandable. there are parts of people that we are not going to find attractive or pleasant, for lack of a better word. I know I keep using that word. And yeah, obviously I feel like I do need to say this because people are extremists on the internet and they don't understand nuance. But obviously, like, dark and ugly parts to a certain extent. If your darkness and your ugly parts are hurting other people, I would seek help. And I do not condone that. I do not condone physically hurting or abusing people, emotionally hurting or abusing people just for the thrill of it. That's not dark parts or ugly parts that I'm talking about. I just want to make that very clear. But yeah, I would really check out this book if you're into horror, if you're into the paranormal, and if you're into like a little bit like feminist undertones in your literature or in your art. This is the perfect book for you. And I hope to see you again soon. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you again soon. I don't want to say I have a posting schedule. I don't, but I know I'm aiming for every week. And I hope to see you there soon.